Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. And in this tutorial I want to look at retouching a portrait image to remove like blemishes and to smooth the skin out to give a much more sort of professional looking image. Now, I originally did this as a written tutorial back in about 2015 for Serif's earlier product, PhotoPlus, and that was an adaptation of two Photoshop tutorials that I sort of blended together to make one overall tutorial. Unfortunately though, in that tutorial I had an image which was supplied by one of the magazines, and you could download it and use that to follow on. Unfortunately that web address is no longer available. I don't think the magazine exists anymore. So I had to find an alternative image, which is not necessarily that easy, because obviously people are not going to put up pictures of themselves or what have you that have got that many blemishes on. So this was like the best one I could find, which I got from pixabay.com. I mean, I could have probably scoured a lot harder, but this is the one I'm going to go with, and I will add a link to this picture if you want to follow on with and use this picture, or if you have your own one, just use your own one. So this would be the start image, and this is the how I ended up. So I hope you can see I've removed a lot of the blemishes, enhanced the eyes, and smoothed the skin out. So it looks, hopefully looks a bit better. So that's that, and that's that. So let me just zoom out. I'll do Control and 0 to go back out to the full image. I'll do the same with the finished one, so you can see what better, not so much better, but see the whole image. Now, obviously there are professional like programs that can do this for you, and if you do take a lot of portrait images, then I would suggest you go down that path rather than this, because you don't necessarily want to go through this process the whole time. But if you're like me, you very rarely ever take portraits images, so you're going to only be doing this once in a blue moon. Then you may not necessarily want to invest in a proper bit of software. But talk on the subject of a proper bit of software, funny enough, just before I started to prepare to do this today, on Facebook there was an advert for Portrait Pro. They're giving away a free trial. So I had a quick look at the website, and you can just go, it's professional, portraitprofessional.com, or you could probably just do a Google search for Portrait Pro. I will also add a link to this into the description, but obviously, if you view this like 6 months from when I'm making this, which is April 2017, like 6 months or a year's time, this offer, they'll probably have some other new offer, but this offer won't be on. So you can get the free trial version. They can either click on it from there or from this link down here, and once you click on that, all you've got to do is give them your name and your email address, and I'm guessing it does Mac versions as well. Yeah, you can, and which version you want to download. And as you can see, it's fully featured, apart from not being able to save. So you can do whatever you like to your image, you just won't be able to save them. So it is a good way to check out whether this program is for you, and there's no time limit, so it will last forever. But then again, if you can't save any images, it's probably not going to be on your computer that long if you don't like the program. But at the moment, at the time of the recording, they were doing a special offer, 50% off if you ordered it on as a download online, and it costs about £30, I think it is. So if you want to go down this line, you can do. And just to show you, I did download it and I have tried it, and using the same image, this is the before and after images, and with absolutely no knowledge of the program, I got this end result in about 5 to 10 minutes. It's quite easy to do. It's just moving sliders around, pick whichever thing you want to alter, like makeup and eyes and all that. So for £30, it looks could be quite a good program if you do quite a lot of portraits. But as we are looking at Affinity Photo, we will carry on with this tutorial. So this is my start image, and whether you use this or your own, I'll leave it up to you. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the background layer just by right clicking and go to duplicate, but you don't have to do that. I'm only doing this so that I can click this on and off to show I can show you and compare the alterations I've made to what it looked like originally. So you would just be working on the background image. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and the first thing I'm going to do is to sort of get rid of some of these blemishes, spots and marks and what have you. Now you can do this in sort of 3 ways. You can use the clone tool, which is available from this icon here, or you can just press S. You can also, it should be here somewhere, I think there's a blemish, it must be here somewhere. Would help if I actually practice these things. Oh yeah, it's on the blemish removal tool, very sorry about that, which is on the same menu as the other option, which is the in painting brush tool, which I would advise you to use first of all, because this will do most of the heavy lifting really. So you can change the brush size like with most brushes and what have you in Affinity Photo by pressing the left and right square bracket key, and then just reduce the size down to roughly where you want the size of the thing you want to remove. And I'm going to go over this spot down here just under the neck, just click once, and there you see it is gone. I'm also going to get rid of this stray hair here, and maybe a couple of these other stray hairs, just slightly distracting, I think. Right, there's one here by the necklace. Just come down there. There's a few over the jumper here. I mean, you could leave these in, it's really up to your personal taste. Right, moving up to the face area, it's obviously got this mark here, that one. Nearly there. Right, I'll just probably get rid of a few of these away with eyebrow hairs just to tidy that up slightly. Right, I'll just get rid of this one there. Right, now this last one is the hair across the eye here. Now, I'm going to do this in small stages here. Now, this part here, I did have a bit of problem with this when I used the in-painting tool when I first practiced this, because it ended up making this look like a sort of half a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the clone brush this time. So I will just use the clone brush tool, hold down the Alt key and then click to get an area to clone from, and even with the clone brush tool it's not perfect. Let's try that again. It's a case of a bit of trial and error here. But because the brush tool is a circle, it's easier to sort of, in my opinion anyway, easier to keep the circle it's not perfect, but it is quite close. So I'll go back to the in-painting tool. I'll just zoom in a bit more, I think. Reduce the brush size down. Right. Right, maybe not the perfect result, but it's not too bad, and I can live with that. So I got rid of most of the more obvious blemishes and stray hairs. I could possibly do some of the stray hairs that are up here that you might find distracting. But I think that will do. Right, moving on to the next thing we want to do. Oh, but before I do that, we'll just compare. If I turn this off, I mean mainly you can only just see the hair over the eye and those spots around just above the mouth, but the only really noticeable changes. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in to the eye area, and then I'm going to come up to the top here, and you've got this white square with the black circle in the middle, and this is the quick mask. You can either just click on this or you can just press Q on the keyboard. But I just noticed I have accidentally left this layer turned off, so let me just turn that back on again. You won't have that problem so much because you haven't made a duplicate for comparison, but I have to keep an eye on that. So yeah, so just click on that icon or press Q, which will put a red overlay on the image, and then select your paintbrush tool or press B on the keyboard and have white as your foreground colour, and painting white will reveal what is underneath through this red overlay. I have the hardness set on 0 and I've reduced the size down to suit the part I am going to be painting over. So I'm just going to quickly do this, and you can probably take a bit more time than I am here, but I am going to include that hair there just so I can get that bit of white that's behind it, rather than reduce the brush size down too much to get behind it. Make sure that everything is painted over. Just go over it a couple of times. There we go. Right. So what I want to do now is to come down to where the layers are displayed, and down here at the bottom it's got layer mask, so you just click on that. It will remove the red outline, but it will make a selection of the area that you've just painted. So now I want to press Ctrl and J. Oh, hang on, again I need to make sure that that layer is highlighted, and then press Ctrl and J. So it will make a layer just of the eyes. So I can now press Ctrl and D to get rid of that selection area, and I will come up to Filters, Sharpen, High Pass. Now this will add a high pass filter just to the eyes here. So you can move the slider as to how much of this high pass filter that you want to be added, but you only want about 5 pixels or so, roughly about there. You just add a little bit of sharpening, and then click Apply. And then what you need to do is to change the blending mode from normal to overlay. And then what I will do is right click this layer and come down to merge down. So hopefully now when I do the comparisons there, the eyes do look just a little bit sharper. I mean, you could even repeat this process if you want to make them a bit more. Let me come off this tool. You could repeat the selecting and add in high pass if you just want to make it that little bit more sharper, but I will leave that where it is. So I'm just going to zoom out slightly so that I have the eyes and the teeth visible. And what I'm going to do now is come to the adjustments, and I'm going to pick a levels adjustment. Now I'm going to be moving the gamma slider to the left to brighten the image. It will brighten the whole image, but you really just want to look at the whites of the eyes and the teeth, but that is the only thing that we will end up highlighting. So I'm going to move this to the left. As you can see, it will make it really bright, but so again, like I said, I'm just keeping an eye on the eyes and the teeth. You don't necessarily want them to end up looking so bright that she looks a bit alien. I'll come to about there. It's at 0.811, so anywhere around the 0.8 mark for this particular picture, in my personal taste, I think works. So, but we don't want to merge, you just want to click on this X here and then come back to the layers area here, and as you can see the adjustment is a level above. Now what we want to do here is to invert this mask, because at the moment, because it is a white mask, it is allowing the effect that we've just done to show through, but we want to make it a black mask so it will hide the effect, and you can do that just by pressing Control and I, and as you can see that mask has now become black and that brightness effect has disappeared. So again we need to come to the paintbrush tool, have white as your colour, and I'm just going to zoom in a bit here on the eyes, and then just paint around the areas that you want to bring that brightness that you've added back in, which is like the whites of the eyes. It's only a subtle difference. I mean, you could have made it, I could have made it a bit brighter, but I just want to sort of help highlight the eyes by making them a bit whiter than they were. I'll just reduce the size slightly to get that little bit down there, and then come down to the teeth. Now this effect is probably better on these back teeth because they are more in shadow. But you can just go over all the teeth. Just to make them that little bit whiter than they were. Just get a few of those on the lower jaw. Yeah. Again, you can take a bit more time than I am. I'm sort of rushing this a little bit. There we go. I think that'll do. So again, if I just move this here, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click this again and merge down. So again, I'm back to just this layer here, and I turn it on and off. Hopefully you can see how much that has brightened the eyes and the teeth. So making sure I have that layer actually turned on this time. I can again, from a distance it's not as noticeable, but hopefully you can see that the eyes and the teeth, how that effect is working. So next I want to do is, your particular, you don't necessarily have to do this next part, it depends on your image and what your personal taste, but I'm just going to add another levels adjustment, and I'm just going to darken the image slightly. I think it's just maybe a tad bright at the moment, so I'm just going to come over to, I don't know, let's say about there, 1.189, just to add a hint of dark, you know, make it a slightly darker image. So this time I will click merge because I want the effect over the whole image. and then I'm going to come to the vibrance adjustment, and I'm just going to boost the colours up around to about 50%, and again merge that, come back to my layers area, and again just do a quick comparison. Right, I'm happy with where we are up to now. Right, the next thing we want is the sponge tool, and that is found, I think by default it's set on Dodge brush tool, but it is in the same menu, so you want the sponge brush tool. Now I've got hardness set on about 20%. Now the important thing here is to click, if it isn't already, saturate, so that is selected, and also HSL saturation, click on that to make that is selected, so both of those two are selected. Now the flow rate, I found it works quite good around the 50-55% mark, and the width and opacity will vary depending on which part we are painting. So let us move in, and it is the lips that we're going to be working on here. So we're just going to boost the colour of a lipstick here, and basically what the sponge tool does, it sort of soaks up the pixels and then sort of adds those pixels back on to the image. So first of all, I'm going to just increase the opacity. Let's go up to around the 50% mark, see how that looks, and I'll just make the brush slightly bigger, I think, maybe a bit more than that, and then it's just a case of clicking and moving this around the lips. Let's probably increase the opacity. Let's go up to near 100. Let's go over it a few times for it to start working. Now I did find that at a higher opacity, especially this area up here, hopefully you can see that under the brush tool, you can see what colour it will be when you go over it, and it sort of gets a bit fluorescent up here. So this is where I need to lower the opacity down and then add the bit of colour and reduce the brush size to do up here, and then the top lip as well. Right, I think that's what we'll do. But hopefully you can see what I mean. That does still look slightly fluorescent up there. I maybe should have reduced the opacity a bit more for doing that bit up there, but I think that is adequate now. So again, if I turn that layer on and off, that's what it looked like, and that's what it looks like now. So again, I'll press Ctrl and 0 to zoom out, do another comparison from a distance. Right, so that is like the blemishes removed, eyes and teeth made a bit whiter, and the lips to look a bit more full of colour. So the next and sort of last thing we want to have a look at is smoothing out the skin. So to do this, I just need to duplicate this layer. So you can either do Control and J or just right click and duplicate it, because we're going to add the smoothing out effect to this layer. And to do that, you need to come to Filters, Noise and Denoise. Now this tool has remembered my previous settings, so what I'll do is I'll just reduce all these down, and I will zoom in so we can see the effects on the face, and I will come to the split screen view. I will take the X out, the ticks out of this extreme here, because I found that if I push all these up as far as they will go, it will have an effect, but a very, very subtle one. In fact, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I really can't see a vast difference. But if I bring these back down again, and I put a tick in extreme, in both luminance and colour, push the contribution and details up high, I can then start to just tinker with these top two, and hopefully you can see that that has already started to smooth the skin, like on a little bit on that cheek over there and the cheek under this eye here. In fact, that area there is probably the most obvious difference. So I'll just bump them up a little bit further. Yeah, so you just really want to get rid of like the obvious pores of the skin and other sort of minor blemishes. That's not too bad about there. They're both set on, or freakily, they're both set on 372%. I think I could get that if I tried. Yeah, I think that 300, 400% on both of those, the effect is quite good. So I will just click apply on that, and what we are going to do now is to add a layer mask to this layer. So just click on the layer mask icon here, and at the moment that layer mask is letting the effect happen to the whole image, but we only really want it to affect the skin. So I'll come to the brush tool, and I will make the foreground color black, and I'm just going to paint over the eyes and the teeth and possibly the lips as well, unless you want to smooth out those lips a bit, and then around the edges of the hair and the jumper and what have you. But I'll start with the eyes to bring back some of those details that we've spent time earlier heightening. You don't necessarily want to then lose the details. You may just want to include some of those eyelashes, maybe. There we go, that's that one. not being an expert on fashion photography and portraits, maybe you want to highlight the eyebrows, and maybe you don't. I don't know quite what would make a good sort of portrait image. I'm not going to go over them, but if it's your personal taste, you can do that. Right, let's go down to the teeth. Similarly to what I said about the eyebrows, I'm not really an expert on portraits and what have you. Maybe it's better to have a smoother lips. It is only a slight smoothing of the lips, so I will not go over the lips in that respect. But I will now press Ctrl and 0 to zoom out, and I will get a much bigger brush size and just paint around the hair and the jumper, just to bring back or remove any of the denoise smoothing to those areas, because we only want it on the skin. I'll just reduce the brush size to come up there. And again, like before, as I said, you can take your time doing this. I'm just doing this quickly for the sake of the video. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge this down. So right click, merge down. So that would be your finished image. So just turn it off. That's where we started, and that is where we ended up. Admittedly, it's only a sort of a very subtle change. So hopefully, even the person in the photograph will be happy with the end result, because you haven't really gone over the top. Because again, my personal taste, I find a lot of these images that people have touched them up, in my opinion, they go a bit too far, and I'd much just prefer a subtle change, which is what I've done here. Now, I will admit there are probably 100 different ways to do similar things with this program. I've seen many ways of whitening teeth or eyes, for example, but these are just the ways that I did it to try and keep it similar to how my original one was. So hopefully you've learnt something from that and enjoyed watching it. Thank you for watching, and before we go, just make sure you save your altered image under a new name so you do not lose and ruin your original. So once again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.